Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Engineer Nada. I would like to welcome you to the first day of NHRA Medical Device Regulations webinar. We are used to having this activity physically and on a regular basis, where we had almost 5 workshops last year. However, due to the unexpected circumstances, we were not able to have this as a physical activity. And I would like to thank Svetlana and her team to make this event possible due to the urge of having this regular practice. We have developed and designed each module in this webinar to carefully clarify every single process in medical device regulation in the Kingdom of Bahrain. I really hope that you will benefit the most of each module. A few housekeeping details, and then I will turn things over to our presenter. Today's module is about authorized representative registration, and it will be presented by Engineer Umar. We have enabled the Q&A box located at the bottom of the screen. Please feel free to raise any question during and after the webinar. The presentation, where it will be then answered by the speaker. And in order to take advantage of this time, I would like to kindly encourage you to raise questions that are related to today's module. We will have an interactive session at the end of the webinar if possible. There is no need to take photos of the presentation as it will be shared after the webinar. At the end of the webinar, we will be having the exam regarding today's module that will be shared as a link in the chat box. Please make sure to click the link as soon as possible, as the link will only be valid for 20 minutes upon ending the webinar. We are delighted to announce that the top 5 candidates will be earning their seats in the Committee of Medical Device Private Market Representatives, where they can take part to set the new regulation with us while piloting it together, to take their valuable feedback into consideration prior to implementation during our monthly meeting. All participants will be receiving certificate of attendance, and I hope you benefit as much as possible from this webinar. Please visit MedTech website to get more information about the first GCC Summit for Medical Devices agenda and speaker. Now that we're done with our housekeeping, I would like to welcome our speaker, Engineer Umar. The floor is all yours.
Today, I'm going to talk about medical device facilities and what are the types of medical device facilities, the requirement of each type, and how to apply to get the medical device facility approval and the renewal process, and you will have enough time to ask your questions. First of all, you need to know that the medical devices are any healthcare product used in a healthcare facility does not contain any pharmaceutical ingredients. Even the lab reagents and controls are medical devices called IVDs, which is in vitro diagnostic device. As NHRA has the responsibility of regulating the medical devices, we can summarize NHRA medical devices surveillance into 3 main stages. Pre-market, where the device is still outside Bahrain market and not yet imported. On market, where the device is going to enter to Bahrain market, and post-market, after the device has been marketed and used in the healthcare facilities. As a part of a pre-market surveillance, medical devices facilities should be registered based on the medical device activity, like import-export of medical devices, storing of medical devices, manufacturing of medical devices, and medical devices maintenance. We as NHRA registering and licensing 3 medical devices facilities, which are medical device manufacturer, medical device authorized representative, storing facility, and as you can see, there is an ISIC 4 code in your uh, right side of each type of medical device facility. This code is related to the activity in case you are going to apply to get the activity using Ministry of Industry and Commerce Sigillat system. You have to choose the code in order to get the needed activity. So far, we have 75 registered authorized representatives and 1 manufacturer. However, we have not yet registered any storing facility because it is a new activity. The manufacturer requirement has been established and minimized during corona pandemic to 5 major stages, starting from the manufacturer side, where the applicant should provide the engineering plan showing all these 5 processes where they do not overlap, and it varies depend on the manufacturer final product. Then production machine, where we need to look for a quality assurance certificate of the machine, the production machine, and the production capacity, and the machine pre-installation requirement. And with regards to the final product, the applicant should provide the process of manufacturing, the final product design and development, documentation, device specification, and the final product label or artwork sample. Note that all manufacturing processes should be documented, including the below 7 processes. The manufacturer should obtain ISO 13485 from a recognized certifying body in order to ensure that the manufacturer and the final product are in compliance with international safety and quality standards. And finally, the manufacturer should hire a trained maintenance employee to apply the periodic preventive maintenance plan and procedure, and the employee CV should be provided too. And now I'm going to highlight the medical device authorized representative requirements, starting from the authorized representative form. Then the valid CR for the existing companies, and the application number for the new companies which appears in Sigillat system. Company internal policies and procedure in each case of the following: distribution, maintenance, complaint handling, adverse event, and recall. Authorization letter or agencies for the existing companies. Most of the new companies does not have an authorization or agency agreement yet at this stage. Excel sheet or a software should be available to monitor the imported and sold items in order to trace the items in case of field safety notice or recall. List of company staff CVs should be provided along with the training courses certification, if any. The company scope of service, as it will be reflected in the authorized representative certificate. For example, if your company are going to import dental unit, you have to state it clearly that we will have a dental in the scope of service. As you can see, this is the authorized representative form, which contains 3 main sections. One, where you have to fill the company information. Section 2, where you have to provide the agency details like agency, period, manufacturer name, country of origin, even if the manufacturer has more than one manufacturing site in a different country of origins. Finally, the manufacturer scope or products. Then section 3 is about internal policies and procedures. So the distribution records are about how you are going to document the items or products distributed and what system are you going to use in order to document such information. Then the complaint handling, recall, adverse event, alert of modification. You have to provide the internal policies and procedure which shows how are you going to receive the case, what is, what is the form that you are going to use in each case, how you will respond to each case, how you will finalize the case and write the final report, how you will inform NHRA, and finally, you have to provide the forms along with the application. Authorized representatives are ranked in 4 stages, starting from A, which is the highest, to D, this and the below weights, like if the company has a service team or not, if the company have an integrated system or not, and so on. And here is the last type of medical device facility, which is medical device storage facility, as it is a newly added activity under NHRA medical devices. So the medical device storing facility requirements are as follows: application form, tracing system for the devices, list of the employee including the CVs, list of the equipment and vehicles to be used inside and outside the facility to transport the medical devices, other governmental sector approval evidence like civil defense or municipalities, and finally, terms and condition forms. Here we will talk about how to apply for a medical device facilities. Whatever the type of the facility, first of all, you have to apply through Sigillat system, which is Ministry of Industry and Commerce system, using the previous ISAC 4 codes, and you have to upload the required documents. NHRA medical devices team will check and review the document. If it is not correct or if there is missing document, the application will return back to the applicant in order to provide the needed document. If the provided documents are correct, the applicant will get the initial approval. At the same time, an inspection requirement sheet will be sent to the applicant to comply with the requirement. Then the applicant should request for an inspection visit. NHRA team will visit the facility and inspect in order to check if it complies with the provided documents and inspection requirement. If it is in compliance to the provided documents and inspection requirement, the license will be issued. If it is not, inspection report will be issued. Then the application will be on hold until the inspection report is fulfilled. And once it's fulfilled, an evidence should be provided and submitted to NHRA in order to issue the license. In the renewal process, it is the same process, but you have to update the previously submitted documents, and in case of major changes in the documents and facility, we might visit again and inspect the facility for the renewal. Finally, please note that the renewal form guidelines are uploaded in NHRA website under Medical Device Department, Registration, Medical Device Facilities. Thank you. and it's time for your questions.
Thank you very much, Engineer Omar, for a very detailed presentation. As you have said, we can move into the question and answer portion of our webinar. The first question is manufacturer scheme. Is it for local manufacturer or foreign as well?
It's for local manufacturers, as NHRA has the rights to regulate the local manufacturers only.
Is there an expiry date for authorization letter?
Some companies will issue an authorization letter with an expiry date, and some without. So it depends about the manufacturer and the authorized representative agreement.
Okay. Is it possible to hire an in-house engineer for maintenance and calibration?
Yes, it should be hired internally, or even it can be contracted engineer, outsourced engineer to have the preventive maintenance. Or
okay, let me clarify one point, Engineer Omar, if you allow me. I
yes.
think this is related to the companies who have medical devices that require maintenance. But if the company is like purely importing and distributing disposable medical devices, do they still need to have an authorized, trained engineer?
No, they don't have to have an
So it's
a
actually
maintenance engineer. It depends
so it's
about
the
scope of the company itself.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. How can we check if a company has NHRA certificate?
Again?
How can we check if the company has an NHRA certificate?
Yes, you can easily go to NHRA website under Medical Device Department registration, and you can find it under medical device facility. There is the list of authorized representative, which is certified by NHRA medical device team.
Thank you for the clarification. For renewal process, how long does it take?
It depends about what are the changes in the documents and the company itself or the facility itself. In some cases, we might need to visit and re-inspect the facility. In some cases, we don't need for this. So it depends about the facility type and the requirements.
Okay, could you kindly clarify one more time when we could receive the inspection criteria for medical facility? I think maybe
Yes.
you need to clarify the inspection criteria for them.
Yes, once you fulfill the requirements, you submit the requirements of the facility registration and it's correct, then we will send you the inspection criteria. So you have to fulfill those requirements and send it back again to an NHRA medical device team in order to plan the inspection visit.
Okay, should the authorization letter be original or attested by ministry?
No, it can be a copy one, but it should be valid and stamped and signed from both entities.
Okay. What is the requirements for the storeroom and the size or location?
It depends
and
about...
if you allow me to combine both questions related to storage, and is it a must to have a storage facility?
First, it depends about the devices itself. In some cases, the devices needs lower temperature, so they have to put an air condition, or they have to put a cold room, and other items doesn't need that much requirements, which needs the room temperature. So it depends about the item itself. On the other hand, you might contract or outsource the storing facility in case you don't need to have internal storing area. You can have it outsourced.
Okay, so if I could say, like, if the company who is applying for an authorized representative has medical devices that does not require any storage, like they import directly to the end user, is it a must to have a storing facility in this case?
It's not a must, but it has to be written in the policies and procedure of distribution, and the devices which is imported to the end user should be recorded that it's directly transferred from the port of entry to the end user directly.
Okay. For companies with multiple CRs, do we have to register each CR provided all are dealing with medical device certificates, and will each one of them get a different certificate?
Yes, because each of them will have a different address, different CR number. So each one will get another certificate, and both should comply with NHRA.
And I think also they will have different staff.
Yes.
Yes. So it will be a different criteria, different requirements. It's not the same. If the company license is still valid, but we need to add new manufacturers to the license, what we should submit, what kind of documents that need to be submitted?
You have to provide an official letter to NHRA addressing the new manufacturers and the agency contract or agency agreements between the company and the manufacturer.
Okay, let me add a question from my end. If it's from the same scope, but let's say we have an XYZ company who have a scope for cosmetic, and then the new manufacturer is actually dealing with cold chain items. Does that require any additional activity from NHRA?
Yes, they need to add first the scope and the requirement of this scope, as they know that the manufacturer has the pre-requirement for, let's say, storing requirement, delivery requirement, whatever they have to comply with, and add the scope to the company certificate. Then they have to update the manufacturing list.
Okay, so actually it depends on what kind of a manufacturer they're talking about. Thank you for clarifying this point. What is the difference between importing company and authorized representative? Maybe because the authorized representative is a new term, so if you can clarify what is the differences?
Yes, the main advantage that the authorized representative will be able to register the items and get a certificate from NHRA for medical device registration certificate, while the importer will not have this kind of facilitation.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Is it mandatory for medical device company to sell its devices in Bahrain to have an authorized representative and a legal manufacturer then device registration?
No, they can import the devices, but they have to provide the importation requirement, which is available on NHRA website.
Given that they have a valid CR for importation?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any deadline for companies to have NHRA authorized representative registration?
Right now, there is no deadline, but inshallah, in the coming, let's say, weeks, there will be a deadline and they have to comply with. Otherwise, the company will be removed from Sijilat or Ministry of Industry and Commerce.
Plus, there is one advantage, it's free of charge.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I think I've combined 4 questions related to the classification, and maybe we can end our webinar with that. Let me try to rephrase them. Regarding the authorized representative classification, how can they first check their classification or scoring, and what kind of an advantage will that give the company? Maybe I think you need to clarify why there is a classification from the beginning.
Yes, there is a classification because the class A companies will have some advantages, like they will have priority to register their items if it is already listed within NHRA. Then they will have a certain criteria, like they are able to have class 3 devices. They will be able to have a service team in-house here in Bahrain, and so on. While class D could not do or could not import class 3 devices, and so on.
And how can they check their scoring or classification?
Inshallah, later the scoring and classification will be published even in the same list of registered manufacturer, authorized representative in NHRA website.
And I think now it is already in the guideline.
Yes, it's already in the guideline.
Okay, one more point, if you'll allow me, I need to add to the classification. Normally, regulatory authorities, they have their own classification also based on what kind of action they need to take. So for example, we need to differentiate between class A and class D in terms of the records that we need to review, the servicing team, servicing documentation that we need to review. So it's actually also the amount of documents that need to be reviewed, the amount of effort NHRA needs to put in place in order to register that company. And all these classification, you said, engineer, that it will be published on our website along with the authorized representative classification, inshallah.
Yes.
Okay, inshallah. That's a good news, I think, for many of the companies, so that the end user will know the level of companies or authorized representatives they are dealing with. Thank you very much, Engineer Omar. At the end of our webinar, I would like to remind you to click on the test link shared in the chat box before we end the webinar, as it will only be valid for a certain amount of time. We look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's session, medical device registration. Thank you very much. Ma salama.
Thank you.